That's going to be a huge hindrance to them. It did not immediately register with me, but that's going to be quite the problem for them. Oh, holy cow, they were really all over him. Okay, I'm dead now. Yeah. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Athena support guide. This is the start of the Clash. We will be doing, I believe, 2 episodes of this, and move on to Joust. Or I believe there's also 2 episodes, and then we move on to 3 of Arena, and 3 of Siege. Anyways, back to the main point. Let's see what we've got here. Alright, Thanatos, good. That's actually really good with Athena, because Thanatos can very accurately predict where they're going to wind up. That's pretty excellent. The Morrigan can double on that. Not really much interaction with Amaterasu, unfortunately. There's just not really that much you can do there. Scylla, again, the ultimate forced them to go a particular direction. Makes it very easy for Scylla to hit her ult, be able to chain that. Maybe even hit multiple targets with either of these individuals if you can taunt enough people. This is Clash, so it's not necessarily impossible. So we'll have to see how that goes. We'll go with the Amazon Athena. What the heck? Do we have a meme Athena? No, there is no meme Athena. That's unfortunate. Well, except for the Russian one, but... So yeah, alright, let's see. Loki, okay, not bad. We can force him out of his invisibility if we're quick, same without Kwang. The Anubis is not a good thing for... Oh, well, this is a bad matchup for Anubis because I can taunt him out of his Locusts, which is definitely his more damaging of his 2 regular abilities. I can also taunt Merlin out of his Flamethrower ability as well. The Apollo, not much interaction there. He can usually blast through the blocks, so that's not really a huge advantage there. So, yeah. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so we're gonna want some... I'm trying to decide if Sentinel's Gift is the way to go right off the top, but I think not. If they start building some pretty heavy amounts of anti-heal... Oh, no, well... No, we're gonna go for this. Alright, we won't buy potions quite yet. I'm going to save up, rush to Thebes. It's very important we get Thebes early. I'm not sure if I'm going to go full Orobot or just go for the Gauntlet of Thebes. I'm kind of leaning towards a bit more of a damage. It would be a nice change from the Khepri. There's, of course, Clash, so lots of team fights. So we have a lot of potential to make quite the damaging impact here. Alright, fair enough. Where's Loki, though? There he is. Alright. Why am I the only one trying to go left? No. Please help me. Yeah. Oh, they got him. Alright. Oh, I'm with most of that? Alright. How are we doing here? We've got no mana, so Merlin is not really a huge threat on the board. No, that's not me doing. Okay. Yep. I was caught out too. I shouldn't have been quite so aggressive. Alright, so I'm gonna go over here and support the Thanatos really quick, because Thanatos, yeah. Thanatos is not gonna have an easy time here. Now the question is, okay, do they pick... Yep, okay. You had enough for just that, huh? Alright, fair enough. Good, now I have ult. No, that's not a fight we need. We don't need that. I'm gonna try to save my ult for when I have enough for Gauntlet of Thebes. I can go back, grab that ult back in. Alright. Oh, nice. Oh, you're going... Oh, nice. Good prediction. That was incredibly awesome. Alright, so the Scylla really knows her stuff. That's nice. Almost have enough for Gauntlet. So we're going to go back now. So I can start popping these stacks. Let me see. Alright. Close, close. I've just now noticed that they have no real front line. That's going to be a huge hindrance to them. It did not immediately register with me, but that's going to be quite the problem for them. Oh, holy cow. They were really all over him. Okay, I'm dead now. Yeah. They are going to have a bit of an early game advantage because of their sheer power output, but once Amaterasu and I get up to speed, we're going to be able to do some pretty serious damage here. And out of respect for the fact that they're going to be busting out large quantities of damage, I am going to go Orabot here because my team is going to want the extra protections to really kind of resist the increased damage output of the enemy team composition. So I am going to go with Sovereignty. No, I might go Heart Ward next. I think they have the 3 magics. I'll want Sovereignty after the fact, but I think Heart Ward would be the better choice, especially since it'll help with my MP management as well, which is quite important. I'm playing too aggressively for not having full gauntlet yet. Which is the primary issue at this point. They're building flat pen as well. Alright, he's just got Typhon's Fang, which is totally fine. Merlin built Bancrofts. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so a trade. Oops. What is Thanatos doing? That was interesting. I whiffed that completely. Alright. Now we just gotta not die. You go after, you greedy. Alright. I'm gonna see if I can help. No, wait, hold on. Let's, now we go back. And ult in. With some extra magic protections. Should have gone with the Morgan. Alright, not bad. I'll want Voidstone later on too. Heart Ward, Sovereignty, Voidstone. Maybe Mystical Mail so I can do some increased damage as well. I think that'd be pretty useful. That's fine. That's fine. Excuse me? Alright. Don't bother upgrading the ult yet. We're just using it for transportation. Not really for damage. Yeah, that's fine. Hit me with that. Why does Thanatos sit like a wet noodle? A Hydra's Limit first. Okay. It's usually something you want to build third item. To get some power in there first. What the heck? There we go. I had to time that one to make sure that he didn't disappear first. There we go. Good play, good play. You ain't getting away from me. I got it, nice. Excellent, I got that taunt. Beautiful. I think I caught his dash with that. I almost timed that wrong. I gotta get out of here. I don't have the mana for this. Can I? I have enough mana to save Thanatos' life. Nice. I have just enough mana to save lives and get the enemies killed. Yeah, boy. Yeah, that's a mistake there, Ao Kuang. Now what are you gonna do, punk? That's what I thought. You don't have enough lifesteal for this, do you? If you think for a hot second you're getting away from me, I've got another thing for you. And now you're dead. I don't care if I die. I took the Anubis with me. Anubis was kind of worth that. Alright. We're gonna get blank so I can arrive at the scene of a fight early, in case I don't have my ult up. So this should work out just fine. Alright. Should I go with Pestilence? That's a good question, actually. Maybe Contagion. I'm not sure. The questions that haunt us. How you doing over there? You're doing fine. Alright, that's fine. They're gonna get slapped. Okay, there he is. That's fine. Let's take right tower. Because that's what we need next. I'm actually going to keep the enemy minion wave off. Yeah, what are you going to do, punk? Just trying to keep Merlin off of this. Oh, Thanatos arrives for some damage. Thought Thanatos was taking the tower, but I guess not. Alright. What are they doing over there? What's going on? Nice. No. You're... I was trying to interrupt their assault, but you hit like a wet noodle, Anubis. What the heck? Do you have any penetration? You have 20%. What is wrong with you? Do you just not have the power output? Like, what is this? Oh, I didn't activate my taunt somehow. Nope. I'm a little stuck. Oh yeah, I was gonna die. I went too deep. Alright, we're gonna go with Pestilence, yeah. No, we're gonna go with Voidstone and then Pestilence. I think my team needs Voidstone a little bit more. And then I'll go with Contagion, not Pestilence. Unless... No, I know what I'm gonna do. Well, I have a couple of different options. You know what, I'm just gonna go in. Okay. What are we doing here? Yeah, but you back off. You don't get that. They backed up real quick, didn't they? Ah, fake out. I actually want the Loki. Oh, he ulted. Okay, that's fine. I'll accept that. That is a large amount of his entry into a fight. Why are we not taking right tower? Merlin, back off. I don't have time for you. Really? Nope. You leave my Thanatos alone. I don't care. I got the tower. And you still didn't kill me. What kind of slackers do you call yourselves anyways? Who killed Anubis? I would like a thorough explanation as to how exactly Anubis died. I didn't notice. Oh, the Morgan transformed into Anubis. Got it. Okay. I can take this for a hot second. Hold on. There we go. Nice. This isn't quite victory, though, because we don't have enough time, I think, to actually take the Titan. We're too low on health. Void Stone. Yep. Alright. So? Somebody? Okay, never mind. The enemy team surrendered. Alright. So what actually happened there? Well, as I mentioned earlier, they didn't have any kind of legitimate front line, which massively hurt their ability to team fight, because there was absolutely no one there to prevent... Oh, let's just phase through the ground, it's fine. There was absolutely no one there to prevent them from getting killed. See, is the way the meta currently operates is you look at a damage dealer funny, and they basically die, unless the person looking at them funny is a frontliner without any kind of support. Then that's a totally different story, but we had a couple of really significant team composition issues that were definitely against them. First off, we had a large quantity of characters on our team to effectively counter Anubis. Scylla's root is a problem for Anubis. The Morrigan can basically combo the Anubis to death without the Anubis even being aware of what's going on. Thanatos can also combo the Anubis. Oh, you're using your Locust Breath? Let me silence you out of that, hit you with a Death Scythe, and then wail on you with my autos. I mean, what is Anubis going to do? They're going to put down the Grasp of the Dead, and if they don't have their ult, they're going to run away and pray. Same thing with Amaterasu. Pretty much everyone on the team could either lock down or interrupt the Anubis very easily. Anubis' only hope in any given team fight was his ult. Once that was down, Anubis was basically doomed, because Anubis made a very serious building error. Anubis went right for Typhon's Fang. Now, Typhon's Fang is good on Anubis, but this is not the first thing you want to be building on Anubis. This is, at best, the third item that you build on Anubis. This should have been Bancroft, to give Anubis some power, some extra lifesteal. There just isn't enough baseline lifesteal or base power on Typhon's Fang to make it effective as a second item. Third item at the absolute earliest, and then the problem was sort of doubled down on with Rod of Tahuti. This should have been Bancroft's. Even if you build Typhon's Fang as your second item, this should have been Bancroft's. The Anubis just never had enough lifesteal to work with to actually be able to sustain his way through fights. He was going to work on that at this point, but this was way too late at that point. So not only was the Anubis very vulnerable to a large number of actually, basically our whole team could just do whatever they wanted to Anubis, but he didn't have the lifesteal to survive even in the best of circumstances. Now, the Ao Kuang was fairly interesting. In that Ao Kuang himself is not necessarily a bad idea. Actually, Ao Kuang would have had theoretically the best time, and this is sort of reflected in his score. Technically speaking, only Apollo actually beat him, but he had 4 out of 6, as opposed to Anubis' 3 out of 6, which is 50%, and Loki's 50%, 2 of 4, excluding assists, which is a totally different story. But the Ao Kuang almost did okay, and that was mostly just because Ao Kuang had a lot to actually work with. Both Thanatos and the Morrigan have a hard time getting away from Ao Kuang, so he had a bit to work with here. Not quite as much as we had to work with Anubis, but he had some options. It essentially came down... Another thing I would also like to point out is that if an Ao Kuang plays correctly, it's really tough for a support to prevent his attacks. It is only really possible to counter his attacks, to kind of react. You cannot preempt, you can only react. So, right away, any kind of frontline is on the flat foot there. So that both of those factors contributed to a strong Ao Kuang game, but what Ao Kuang really needs to get back out of a situation essentially is a distraction, which normally would be your warrior or your guardian, but they didn't have either of those. So what essentially was happening is Ao Kuang would sort of attempt to single out a target and eliminate them, and as you can see from the score, succeed 2/3 of the time, and the other 1/3 was just a miscalculation or something happening, and the Ao Kuang failing and not getting the kill while dying for it. So it really depended here, but that's mostly because the Ao Kuang, even on good assassinations where they kill the target, they don't have anyone to help them get back out. There is no guardian, there is no warrior, there is not enough crowd control on their team to get him back out. Anubis has a stun, Merlin has a bunch of slows, yes, and a pull, sure. Apollo has a sing, but Apollo isn't going to be using his sing aggressively because it's Apollo, he's a hunter, he's not supposed to be, and Loki has a stun on his ult. So there's very little actual legitimately heavy crowd control on their team. Each member has approximately one piece of heavy crowd control. Merlin has, like I said, just the pull, but a couple of slows are not going to necessarily save Ao Kuang's life most of the time. Anubis has a stun, which is nice and consistent. Apollo, like I said, has the one, and so does Loki. I mean, it's just not enough crowd control going on here to get Ao Kuang back out. The Ao Kuang himself is fine, it's just that they didn't have any kind of support to help him survive after an assassination. The Merlin... The Merlin kind of faces a similar problem with Anubis, except Merlin isn't quite as easy to lock down. The real problem here is that the Merlin was too aggressive. I don't know if the Merlin was playing this aggressively because they recognized that there was no frontline and they felt like they needed to kind of fulfill that role. I'm not 100% sure. Also, it is fairly interesting that Merlin built Divine Ruin when we didn't have a whole lot of self-heal on the team. Sure, Thanatos sure did. Absolutely, that's just inherent in Thanatos' kit. Scylla had Soul Gem, which is kind of understandable, but the Morgan only had 12% magic lifesteal, and that's not a lot of lifesteal, and that's also not why the Morgan was building it. So, I think the Divine Ruin was not really necessary there. The other two items are fine. No starter item, which is fairly interesting, but the other two items are just fine. And I would just... It just comes down to the Merlin playing pretty aggressively and not having the front line to support that. And, you know, not even having... I suppose the Merlin might have played aggressively because there was no front line to actually hide behind, so it was kind of all or nothing kind of strategy, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Merlin actually doesn't do too badly on a frontline offensive role because he's got the flamethrower, he's got all these abilities, he can hit you with his form shift, which is an AoE around him. I mean, there's some justification to this particular playstyle with Merlin. I am Diamond with Merlin, and I have played like that with Merlin. It's a bit harder to do in the current meta because it's a little easier to kill mages than it was when I was leveling Merlin up, but it is possible to play that way and be very successful at this. It just so happens that the Merlin didn't quite emphasize the large amount of lifesteal that really requires. I mean, Bancroft's is nice, but you need Typhon's Fang, you need Spear the Magus to really increase your damage output. You know, there's a couple of things. Rod of Tahuti, which is really good on Merlin, by the way, because his auto attacks are actually really powerful, so that really helps us out as well. But there's just not... Merlin didn't have enough time. Merlin was playing too aggressively too early in the game. That's something that Merlin probably should have tried to farm and play very safe, play under tower, farm as much as possible, and then in the late game, when you have the lifesteal, you have your Spear of the Magus, you've got your Rod of Tahuti, then you kind of run in a little bit and try to take some people with you, 2 or 3 with your death, since you're not likely to survive, and just make sure that when you go out, you take a couple of the enemy with you, so that way your allies can clean up after you. The Apollo played really well because, as the only hunter on the team with a really safe combo to get out, oh, somebody's attacking me in melee? Sing, dash, I'm safe. Apollo is a very safe hunter to play, and did really well because right now hunters are really strong at this particular moment. So there is that. Well, hunters are really strong. I think hunters are in a mostly balanced place. They are pretty strong right now, but they're very strong against squishies, which is kind of the point. The tanks don't die to them quite as quickly as often anymore, at least in my opinion, not compared to the beginning of the season where they were absolutely decimating everyone and their brother. I think Hi-Rez has really brought that back into balance, so tanks don't just instantly drop dead. They can sustain a decent number of shots. And the Loki was just... The Loki kind of had the same problem as Ao Kuang. You can go in invisibly, that's fine. You can maybe take out your target, but then you have no way of getting back out. And that's really what it comes down to. The Ao Kuang and the Loki suffered from the exact same issue. The Ao Kuang was clearly just better, either better with Ao Kuang, Or what seems more apparent, Loki was just busy farming more rather than going for kills at that point, which is, the actual proper decision based on the team comps. But that's what it all comes down to. It wasn't even really heavily an item issue, although the Anubis built terribly. Primarily, that was really the only issue. The Merlin's build is just, with the exception of Divine Ruin, these are fairly, Chronos Pendant, Bancroft's Talon, these are pretty normal items to build. The Loki, pretty normal items to build, although if you are going to be building Transcendence in Clash, please rush this. Don't build Jotun's Wrath first, you don't have the time. Build that third. Get Transcendence first, get those stacks going, because Loki never apparently got enough farm to evolve this, which is hugely damaging to Loki's damage output here. And it didn't really make a huge difference what we personally invested in item-wise, because we had an advantage right from the get-go of having a frontline, a legitimate frontline. And the Amaterasu was going hybrid because in Clash that actually works out really well for her, because she's got some pretty good damage output, and although I could have also done the same, I recognized that with such a heavy amount of damage that I really needed to be basically an Aura bot, and I was working towards that. I was going to get Mystical Mail. Originally I was kind of having an internal conflict, should I get Contagion, should I get Mystical Mail, but then I realized that we were first off far enough ahead of Anubis that his lifesteal wasn't going to be a huge problem. Second, he didn't have enough lifesteal to even be a problem. Third, Mystical Mail would help me find out Kwong and Loki, because you can see the damage numbers and find out where they are even when they're invisible using Mystical Mail. If I really needed to, I would have sold Sentinel's Gift and purchased Contagion or Pestilence as needed. It would have really depended upon the scenario. But I think ultimately at the end I would have picked Mystical Mail up, just to add a little bit more damage to the proceedings, help me track invisible targets near me, things like that, then taunt them out of their invisibility. It's one thing to be able to find somebody invisible through Mystical Mail, it's another to have a tool on hand, in Athena's case, the taunt, that forces them not only out of the invisibility, but locks them down, puberty, locks them down well enough that your allies can just slap them down before they can go invisible again. So that's really most of what happened here. Very tragic, but it happens where people make mistakes. People feel right now that going 100% damage is the way to go, and there is a time and a place for 100% damage, and that's usually on hunters, but for team compositions that's not going to fly. Splashing in a little bit of protections actually is quite potent right now, and if Loki or Ao Kwong had built a little bit more hybrid, or ideally both had dedicated themselves to a certain amount of hybrid build, then I think they would have done a lot better as a team. I still think we would have won ultimately, because neither Loki nor Ao Kwong is durable enough, nor has the crowd control to imitate perfectly any kind of legitimate frontline, but nevertheless, I think they would have at least lasted longer if they had more hybrid builds. So that's all I'm really going to say about this match here. Thank you all very much for joining me. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, what have you, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me. Have a great 24 hours.